Welcome into the Grabbing the Brisket podcast, guys. Hey, I'm super excited. I'm super stoked to have a special guest, I should say Chef Brandon Dearden. Lucky enough to get him onto the show, and so we can sit here and talk a little bit of cooking and barbecue and whatever else we can talk about.
Are we pronouncing that last name correct?
Yeah, 100% right.
Okay, man, it's like 50-50, right? So we're like, okay, let's go with the way it sounds. Let's just say it this way.
Yeah.
So you never know. Like most time, we're not right when we say this. So,
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So what's been up, Chef?
Well, nothing much. I'm just like super stoked that I'm able to be on this podcast because, believe it or not, deep down in my soul, I have a passion for barbecue, like real authentic barbecue. You know what I mean? And I feel like, as an American and being in America, I think it's like the only thing we have culinary wise is like, you know, low and slow barbecue. And also like, I would say Cajun cuisine, but you know, I'm just infatuated with, you know, cooking over the fire. So I'm really excited to be on this podcast. And honestly, I can't wait to talk barbecue. And believe it or not, I just recently got an offset smoker. So I'm super excited to use that.
Hey,
Nice.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. What kind of smoker did you get?
So I'm not gonna lie, I went with the beginner one. I didn't want to drop like $1,000 or $1,200 on I wanted the Brazos, but I went with just the regular Oklahoma Joe. It's like the step up from the cheapest one, but not enough to break the bank.
Hey,
I think you got the same one I got.
We actually had Oklahoma Joe on the show about a month ago.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you know what? Like all I did was just kind of mod it out a little bit. I put some clamps on it, some gaskets. I feel really good about it. I mean, it's a good beginner offset. And you know what? I would argue that it's a lot harder to manage the fire in a smaller offset like that opposed to a bigger one. I felt like it was so much easier on the larger offset, like the 500-gallon one. Like I just feel like it was easier. I mean, I don't know if you got. I mean, I saw your smoker. Your smoker's pretty legit.
Yeah, you know, I would probably agree with you a little bit, just because those smaller ones, you know, you're using smaller splits. Hopefully, if not, you're getting crazy swings in temperatures. But for the 500-gallon smokers, once you get those things to temperature, usually they're built of a thicker gauge metal. But once they get to temperature, those things, like you're feeding, you know, a log every 30, 45 minutes, right, or an hour. You're just adding one log and closing it up, and you're going about your day, you know, versus the smaller pit. You know, Matt, I think Matt said y'all have the same. Sounds like y'all have the same pit because he has the Oklahoma Joe, which he just got, and man, we've had some awesome brisket, ribs, chickens. I mean, you name it, he's smoked everything on that damn thing, and
that's great.
You can't tell the difference on any other smoker.
Yeah, and one of the things that Chef was saying is like when you're managing the fire on that small ones, like. You have like 2 chunks of wood, and you need to add more wood, but you're on almost kind of the down slope. Like if you see the temperature going down a little bit, and like, man, just add another log to it, and then you add another log to it, and it's like spikes that fire like up to like 400 degrees. You're like, oh crap, what do I do now? So now you just got to ride through it, right?
You know, I don't know if anybody's ever done this, but you know what really worked for me, and I don't know if this is a common practice, but you know what I did is I set up a fire pit next to it, and then I have wood logs burning. And then basically I'm using a little mix of both. So I'm throwing in some fresh wood, but I'm also using the wood that's burned down the coal as well. But like I'm fanning it so they're almost like red embers. And then I'm tossing that in to maintain the heat. And that worked really well for me. The first time I lit it up, I was really like just trying to figure out how the fire was going to work. I've had some open fire cooking experience working at Saison here in San Francisco, but it's nothing like controlling an offset. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Like we're literally like grilling over like wood. And so it was really cool. But I mean, that really worked for me. And I think I'm going to continue to try to figure out how to, optimize the heat. Because the thing is I'm a little scared to throw a whole brisket on there to like, cook for an extended period of time. I just did spare ribs. I did a chicken, and I actually put a side of salmon on it, which worked out pretty well. But it was really nice.
That's awesome.
You know, don't be afraid of the brisket. I mean, especially on a pit that hopefully you're going to wrap, at some point into it, 5 hours, 6 hours into it, you're going to wrap it up. Whether it be butcher paper or tinfoil, it's definitely going to speed that process. I would not be afraid of the brisket on that thing one bit. I do love the fact that you're going with the burnt wood or the coals, the embers.
Separate coals going.
Yep.
Yeah.
The coals. Yeah,
that's a huge method used by a lot of pit masters
That
around
reminds me
the
of
United States.
Rodney Scott when we had him on. I mean, that's what he does.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? Because so here's the thing: at Saison, San Francisco, it's only wood fire cooking, and basically what we would do. So we didn't have that because what was not allowed was the acrid smoke, that white smoke, and so we would literally be burning logs, and then we would get it down to coals, and then we'd fan it, and then boom, we would scoop it over, and that's what we would use to cook. And the flavor that you get from that, opposed to the white smoke, is just, it's night and day difference. But also what I'm interested in is kind of figuring out how to make my own charcoal. I think this would be cool. If you could literally make your own charcoal from the actual wood by cooking it in a non-oxygen environment.
Yep.
That's just the chef side of me thinking, I don't know if I could set that up here in my little house in Silicon Valley, but right. I think it'd be cool to check it out.
It is. I've watched the process on that, and the yield. It's
is that a lot of work for not a lot of?
Yeah. You don't get a lot of yield out of that. I think trying to make your own lump charcoal. I think what they start off with, say you had a quart of wood, your yield may be it's got to be less than half at that point, or maybe right at half, because a lot's going to burn up or whatever else. And I know there's controlled ways of doing it that they do, in the factories and plants and whatever else up there. It's kind of a slower. I guess you're right. It is an oxygen deprived.
Still be fun to try though.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I think it would be cool is because then you can control the size of the wood, right? So I think the problem that I was running into, and I like to use lump charcoal as a starter, right? Just to get it going. But there's so many odds and ends pieces, you know what I'm saying? And it's man, I wonder if I could make my own. So I'm not getting a whole bunch of shake. But I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about. I thought it'd be cool.
No.
But it's yeah, go ahead.
That's it. That's actually a great idea. If you get a chance, check out FOGO Charcoal. They make a charcoal that is their premium. So they have a normal blend that you're kind of probably used to seeing that other places have B&B charcoal or
medium-sized chunks, small chunks,
right? But the premium charcoal they have, you get larger chunks. They're probably the size of two softballs.
A little more uniform too.
Oh,
yep. So
that'd be. I guess that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the uniform. I'm not a big fan of briquettes so much as lump charcoal, but I wouldn't want to. I think I'm looking for that uniform size. Yeah, that's a good point. FOGO Charcoal. How do you spell that? FOGO?
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. I think it's XL Premium.
Yeah, XL Premium.
XL Premium. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Awesome. So do you want me to just give a rundown for the people that don't know, that don't have an idea of my history or anything like that?
Absolutely.
I was literally just fixing to ask you that.
Yeah. So basically, all right. So for everybody that's listening, I'm really appreciate being on this podcast. I'm a chef, and I've been in the restaurant business for 20 plus years. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm only 35 years old. But I started when I was really young. So at the age of 14 is when I started working professionally in a kitchen. Nice. I would visit my father on the weekends. He was a bartender / manager in a little old diner. And of course, me being the little kid I sat in the office until he got off the shift. But I was always so intrigued with how the cooks were screaming at each other. There was flames. They're putting food up. They're cooking and everybody respected the chefs and the cooks. And I thought it was so cool. And it really sparked a fire under my butt. And although I couldn't start in the kitchen, I started in the restaurant very early, busting tables, being a dishwasher first. And then I remember, I'll just jump ahead a little bit. I remember telling my father at 16, I wanted to be a chef. And it was funny. I never looked back, never even considered doing anything else. So by the time I was 16, I was already cooking. And I actually moved down to Florida from DC to Florida. And I was working in the restaurant all throughout high school. And then I finally went to culinary school. And I got a dual associates in culinary and baking and pastry. And then from there, I did an apprenticeship, I would call it, at the Breakers Resort on Palm Beach. I had the opportunity to cook with a bunch of high-level chefs, including Daniel Boulud, Charlie Palmer, Wolfgang Puck was just recently, obviously Saison, and then also I worked at Alinea in Chicago. So I've been all around the United States, Florida, DC, New York, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Chicago, and now San Francisco Bay Area. I've been a chef for about 10 of those 20 years, but ultimately I've never even considered looking at anything else. Well, except for being a father and a husband, that I wouldn't really count that as a job. But yeah, I've just been cooking at a high level for that long. And right now, I think the reason why what's really big is, last year, obviously COVID took the restaurant by all restaurants pretty much swiped the legs from under them, especially here in California. It was really tough. And what I realized is that, I can't depend on anybody else except for myself to, be able to support my family. Right. So it really pushed me into the idea of creating a personal brand. Like, I've always wanted to create a personal brand, but, last year it kind of like just struck me, especially, towards the end of the year. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start social media. I'm going to start TikTok. And even though I got made fun of and ridiculed, nobody's paying my bills. Okay. Right. And it's great. So I started a TikTok account, and, I just started feeling it out, and keep in mind, I'm not a photographer or a cinematographer, and I'm not really good with a camera in general, but I do know one thing. I know how to cook. And I know I have value to bring to, especially the younger generation of cook. And, just in general of cooking tips. And there is this new breed of home cook and home chefs. And, I've really been able to bring value to the home chef. And I think that is my niche, and that's what or I should say niche. And that's what I've been doing. And so I've started TikTok, and I've gained quite the following, and I'm still, climbing, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing. And I'm super happy to just being able to offer my services at no cost, just making videos for free to the younger generation of chefs. I think it's my due diligence as a chef to keep my knowledge. I have to give it away. I have to teach. I have to, really help this younger generation of chef coming up. And that's my story in a nutshell.
Nice. I love that. You could not be more right on this new. It's like this revolution of just because of social media and YouTube and these different platforms, right? TikTok, that you see these home chefs that are coming up with very unique kitchen, dishes, right? And then also at the same time, you can watch a video and see like, okay, it's a great, I guess, premise or great idea of what they're trying to put together. Maybe they didn't execute it really well, or whatever the case may be. And for you to turn around and go, you know what, I can help that person out with what they're doing. And I'm sure plenty of people are tagging you going, hey, how do you do this? Or what's your thought on this? Or the case may be. I absolutely love that. That's so cool.
Yeah. And, the biggest thing is like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I try to tell, it's funny because I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day who has been literally on TikTok since, probably like 6 to 7 months. And it was so funny because he was talking about how this other chef on TikTok literally just blew up out of nowhere. Like, literally the guy has more followers than I do. And it's so funny because I'm like, listen, focus on yourself. Yeah. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You can't be upset. Like, a good example, my good friends, that dude can cook, Albert can cook, Woodfire Whiskey. They all have more followers than me. You know what I mean? But they respect me as a chef. And they ask me questions as a chef. Oh, how should I prepare this? And I think what's really important is not to get caught up with the Joneses, like not to get caught up in other people's business. And there's enough opportunity for everybody out here, whether you're in home improvement, whether you're in being a nanny, whether you're being a plumber, whatever it is, barbecuing. Everybody has something to offer. And nowadays with social media, you can tell your unique story and be able to make a living off of it. Like, I've seen it firsthand. It's amazing. And I try to tell all my chef friends, see, the thing is the reason why you don't see chefs like me on TikTok is because we all have too much pride. We like to stay in our restaurants and behind the stove. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, just in the last 10 years, celebrity chef it's a thing with Gordon Ramsay, Emeril Lagasse. All these celebrity chefs are coming out. I'm telling you, it is cool. Like, chefs are like rock stars now. And let me tell you something. When I was first in this industry, it was not like that. In my parents' eyes, they supported me, of course. But, I'm going to be honest. My grandparents were like, why do you want to cook? Like, cooking is for, it's like, I don't want to say it, but like, it's for like lower class. You know what I'm saying? Like, not blue collar, but, it's like, man, I don't want to say something incorrect here, but it's not what they had in future for me. But I'll tell you what, I stuck with it and I love it. And now you see it, it's different. Chefs have become celebrities and they're the face of restaurants and they are the face of investment groups. You know, it's just like, it's awesome how this has transpired, you know, and especially nowadays where a lot of more people are cooking at home. So they're really interested on how to make things at a restaurant level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, you're creating a brand. I mean, all these chefs out there, I mean, the ones you named, I mean, it's an actual brand that these investment firms and people can get behind of and create these restaurants and create these products and stuff like that. I have to say, I love your videos. I love the personality and I love the kind of just the funness that you put in some of the videos and the little tips and tricks that you put out there. Oh, yeah. I see it all over TikTok where people, you know, oh, these are hacks, like, you know, freaking TikTok hacks or whatever it is. And it's actually like people with like real skills understand, okay, it's easier if you do it this way. And then they put it out there and people like me have never even seen that in my life. I'm like, holy crap, I've never even seen that before. What is happening here? But yeah,
I know.
I love it.
That's great. That's great. And, you know, I really like making videos like that. And I think it's so funny because like a lot of people just look for the drama. That's why I kind of stopped doing the hashtag Chef Authorized because, you know, it just like people want me to sit there and wreck other people like Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. And, you know, I'm just not into that, you know, and the reason why I say that is because, listen, Gordon Ramsay is honestly behind the scenes. He's a great chef. As a chef, I know Gordon Ramsay as the chef that worked with Marco Pierre White, who is a very well-known chef over in England. And, you know, he has 3 Michelin stars. He has a couple other Michelin star restaurants, but everybody else knows him as the person that screams at other people. And that's his legacy, whether he likes it or not. And it's unfortunate. And it's like, I do not want people to associate with me with that. And it's like, I feel bad, but what people don't realize is Chef Gordon he's not even in the restaurant anymore. He's not cooking. Okay. He's a restaurateur now. He's barely ever in the kitchen. I mean, he doesn't even do his own cooking videos. He just does the voiceovers. And it's like, I tell people, let him live his life. Don't ask me to be like him. Trust me. I do not want that, you know? And it's crazy, but you know, that's the way it is. People on TikTok like drama.
So wait, I totally agree with you, but you're in your kitchens and you're not screaming at the people in there with you? Like sometimes just like little bit?
So here's the thing. You know, I used to be like that. Especially when I came out of the 3 Michelin star restaurant, I was so arrogant and so egotistical. It was unbelievable. I couldn't even wrap my head around. Like I look at like pictures, and I actually have a YouTube video, and it's crazy because I'm so embarrassed. But yes, I used to be like that. And then the thing is what ended up happening, especially with this new day and age, is you know, people don't take that. They don't take it anymore. You know what I mean? Like they do not take negative feedback very good. And for me growing up, I took it like a champ, you know, especially being an American working with French chefs. French chefs are evil, man. They will get you. But I learned a lot. But nowadays, I think times have changed. And what I've learned is that I can get the same result with treating people differently. And so that's what I'm pretty much about nowadays, especially now in 2021. You can't get away with screaming at people anymore. But also, you got to take in consideration the reality TV shows. You know, they put those scenes together for that type of reaction. You know?
That's almost like clickbait, right? They want you to tune in and whatever. Yeah.
You know, so living in LA for 4 years, it's funny because like I knew the lawyer of the producers of Hell's Kitchen, and basically all the people that they bring on there, they're no talent, zero talent whatsoever.
They want them to screw up.
Yeah, they're not high level chefs. They are, you know, chefs. They're cooks that aren't working at a high level, but they put them on that show to create that environment.
They're like
me. And I hate to say it. Yeah,
they're working at a Denny's.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Denny's is great. Love Denny's. Grand Slam.
Mm-hmm.
This is a true story. The Grand Slam is very good.
Now, so what do you? So I was going to ask you. That's one of the questions. So obviously you did train under some French chefs and whatever else. But what is the? And hopefully it's not the screaming and yelling. But is that the? You know, I guess is that how you would say like most of your Michelin star chefs you taught under? Is that how they mostly were, or is there a one common theme for all of them? Is it just very meticulous? Is it just very attention to detail? Is like no matter what, it's going to be the way they want it, and there's no sacrifice? Or I don't know. I'm just kind of curious about that, because you have been in those kitchens and under the heats, I guess you could say, with that type of caliber. And I guess that's what made you the caliber you are now? Or
yeah,
is that...
I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100%, especially working at that high level. There is like, perfection is what is happening. Like, I'll be honest, when I worked in Chicago, I'm telling you right now, like, the president could have been assassinated and I wouldn't have never known, because I was so committed to that restaurant, and so like, there's nothing else that's more important than making sure your station is set up or else you get screamed at. And listen, the thing is as I grew up in that, I knew that, okay, I don't want to be this type of chef, because I can get the same job done without belittling somebody. But yes, that's how most of the Michelin places are. It's that behavior is, it's condoned, and unfortunately, it's not right, but that is starting to change a lot.
Nice. So what's the one thing, I think, if you could have, I guess, a one dish that you would have to make,
like signature dish or favorite dish.
You had to recreate. This is like your go-to. What would it be?
So my signature dish is a 72-hour short rib with kimchi and black garlic. And believe it or not, this short rib is bone-in that is cooked for 72 hours, but at 135 degrees. So it's a low enough temperature to keep it mid-rare, but it's long enough to break down the connective tissues in the short rib. And I perfected this dish over the years. And I'll tell you what, it's always a home run. There's not one person that I've met that does not like it. And it's crazy, because it's kind of the dish that I was coined with. And it's not even my technique, to be honest. The first time I had it was in DC at this restaurant called Citronelle, and I was blown away by the cooking technique sous vide. And so blown away that I actually have it tattooed on my arm.
Wow. That's awesome.
Super committed. But yeah, that is my one dish that I will like. A good example, if I were to make a tasting menu, that would be one of the entree courses.
Well, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, can you imagine every day having to start a new
72-hour cook,
7 ribs, or short ribs?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is a commitment, and honestly, I feel like you could get away with the 48-hour short rib, but it's not cool. It's not cool. Like, when somebody thinks 72 hours, they're like, "What? That's crazy!" And it creates such a story. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing to me how the texture changes, and it's the only way you can achieve that certain texture. And I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. But you're right. If you have to do it multiple times a week, it's kind of like counterintuitive. And I'll be honest, you can get away with like a 2-day short rib or a 24-hour short rib, and it could be equally just as good. It just won't be that bright pink mid-rare that we look for.
Right.
Are you sous videing the short rib?
Yes.
Okay.
So the short rib would be sous vide for 72 hours at 100. It's like 134.5 degrees, and it comes out really nice.
Nice. Okay. Well,
to try that.
Matt's ears kind of perked up a little bit because he's our resident
sous vide person
on the podcast. So
yeah,
definitely. I think that's something that's probably going to be in our future here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I got to be honest. See, when I learned sous vide back in like 2009, 2010, I'm telling you, it wasn't even popular. People were looking down on it. They were like, "Why are you cooking in plastic? That makes no sense." Believe it or not, the hotel that I worked in, I bought a circulator for Christmas. This was back when they were super expensive, like $1,200 expensive.
Right.
And I saved up my money and I got one. And I was, I don't know if I was a sous chef or a junior sous chef at the time, but I was long enough there that I could help be a part of the dishes. And this was in the Breakers Resort. It was a 5-star, 5-diamond restaurant. And I remember we transitioned to cooking some of the proteins sous vide. And the executive chef of the hotel made me unplug the sous vide machine. Made me unplug it. And I was like, "Chef, listen, okay, I understand, but here, just taste this. Just taste this and tell me it's not perfect." And I cooked him the perfect piece of steak. It was pink from edge to edge, perfectly seared. And it blew his mind. He was like, "Okay, I don't know what's going on here, but I like it." And it was so funny because, you fast forward, now to 2020, 2021. I mean, sous vide is very common. You can get a circulator for less than $200.
Yep.
You can get these food savers. You can get a whole kit ready to go, less than $200 and you're up and running. And I think that's great because it really is a really good cooking technique. The only thing I will admit is that it gets tricky sometimes, especially now with like people not wanting to use plastic and all that good stuff. So I hope they come up with a creative way to, cook in a different type of material.
Yeah, and I understand the stigma too, because when I first heard about it, we were going over to one of our friends' house and they had said they just got it and we're going to go over there and have steaks. I'm like, what is this? My wife explained it to him, like, so we're going to go have boiled steak? Like, that just sounds awful. But then we go there and we have it and it's super juicy, cooked perfectly. I was like, oh, okay, like what's going on here? And then we ended up getting our own. I've been trying it out, and it's just it's like the juiciest steak I've ever made in my life every time I cook it in the sous vide. I know. So
I know, and you know what? You know what the best part about it is, in a restaurant or when you're in a, the most important thing in a restaurant is consistency, right? So you take the guesswork out of it, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have everything already bagged up, everything's cryovac, and then all you have to do is drop it in the bath, and you just have to finish it with the sear. You don't have to trust a cook to cook it medium or medium rare perfectly. It's going to be there, and I think that is the key in a restaurant. It's having that consistent product every single time. And what's even more important is, I think, for the home cook is like, a lot of people buy a 32 ounce or whatever it is, a huge tomahawk or ribeye steak. And guess what? They don't know how to cook it properly, and that's why I highly suggest to either do the reverse sear or cook it sous vide first and then finish with the sear, because then you end up with a perfect product and you take the guesswork out of, if you haven't cooked a lot of steaks, then it's going to be hard for you to kind of gauge on what temperature it is, That's why I think it's a good idea for the home cook.
I need to borrow Matt's and play with that thing a little bit.
Yeah. Right. We had maybe a few weeks ago, or actually it's probably maybe more than a month or two ago, we came across a gentleman that did a brisket that he sous vide his brisket and cooked his brisket, smoked it. He smoked it, so he says, or whatever. I don't think he really went all into details of how he did it, but when he cut into the brisket, I mean, literally like he was cutting into a medium rare steak. And he went on just talking about being the best brisket that he's ever had and his family's ever have. And I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how that brisket was not still tough. You know what I mean? I think he did it for 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken. 24 hours?
Okay. Or more, yeah.
48 hours?
It might have been like 48 hours.
I think it was 48 hours.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, listen, I've done sous vide brisket too. The only thing I will argue is that you have to separate the two pieces, because here's the thing: when you cook sous vide at such a low temperature, you never render that fat. It's never going to happen. You need to be above 160, 170 degrees, or at least 180 to render that fat. And that's the only beef I have with cooking a brisket sous vide.
Okay,
I love that.
So maybe if you do a flat, which not as much fat and connective tissue,
yeah,
would be a little bit better.
Like you'd have to do, you'd have to definitely do the flat part. But I've done it sous vide. Man, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I've actually done it sous vide, like kind of mimicking barbecue. I didn't want to do it, but I didn't have a smoker at the hotel I worked at, and they really wanted barbecue brisket, and it was just impossible for me to come up with everything in 24 hours. So I just literally mimicked a barbecue brisket, and after I finished cooking it sous vide, I just wiped everything off and then created the crust and then oven roasted it. And you know what? It worked out is much better than I thought that it was gonna happen. And I wasn't mad at all.
Well, let me ask you this, and not to get too far. I mean, I'm sure the listeners like, all right, let's talk about something else. But as far as cooking at that low of a temperature for that long of a period of time, is there any risk of bacteria or any the food maybe spoiling a little bit, or is that something like in a steak, you're just searing it off and it gets cooked, or it gets cooked up to a certain temperature, you don't have to worry about that anymore?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. And honestly, yes, there is a risk if you do it incorrectly. But what I try to tell people is here's a good example. The time temperature danger zone is pretty much a 6-hour range. Now, I'm not saying to leave something out for 6 hours, but the time temperature danger zone is from 40 degrees all the way to 135 degrees. So anything within that range, you pretty much have a 6-hour window. You just have to be really careful. So I know this is going to sound like German, but you have, once it hits 135, let's say like it has to be cooking, right? It has to be maintained at that temperature. If it drops any lower, then you're pretty much in trouble. But especially with things that are bone in. So I try to tell people, be careful with bone in, because if you're doing a big steak, and let's just use a tomahawk, for example, you have to cook that steak within a 4-hour period, or else you're going to run into trouble. So if it's less than 4 hours, you're good, because you're going to cook the tomahawk at probably 115, 120 to a rare, and then you're going to want to sear it. But I would recommend to get everything done within that 4-hour period. After the 4 hours, that's when you start running into time temperature issues. Everything else is pretty straightforward. So a good example is chicken breast, salmon, a small New York steak, anything that's under an hour, you have no issues whatsoever.
Okay, I love it. I see all these things, and of course, you see all the information that floats all over the web, and whether it's true or not, or you got the regulations that are coming from the U.S. regulations as far as cooking certain meats to a certain temperature, like beef. I think I read somewhere, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it's the meat has to be cooked over 155 degrees to kill off most bacteria. But yet, when you go to restaurants or when we cook at home, we're always pulling it off 135, somewhere in that medium rare range for beef, and then chicken. I don't know about restaurants as far as chicken goes. I know every time I go eat chicken at restaurants, it always comes out nice and juicy, and it's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are they doing something different? Or are they cooking to a 160, or are they cooking to a lower temperature? Or are they cooking different chickens that they're able to do different stuff to? That was one of the questions I was going to ask you a little bit later on. But I mean, while we're here talking about temperature range on meats, I mean,
literally, I can't stress this enough, and it's so funny because this is one thing, especially on TikTok. If you say cook your chicken till 145, people are going to freak out, right? Because you want the internal temperature to reach 165, but I'll be honest. And here, let me just give you an example with myself. I cook my chicken to 145, 150, and then I let it carry over, but I like my chicken juicy. Now, my wife, on the other hand, it's got to be dry, bone dry. She temps it at 175, and she is not budging. But now here's the kicker. Let's say if I'm cooking for somebody, right? I'm a professional chef, so I'm going to make sure that it's perfect. Perfect being, I'm going to pull it off the grill around 155, 160. And then the thing is as it sits and rests, it will carry over about 5 to 8 degrees in temperature. But I highly suggest, when you go to a restaurant, just let them take care of it. They are professionals. They will do it. If you're at your home, then don't take the risk. Don't take the risk. I tell people to pull it out when they feel comfortable. So whether it's 160 or 165, you will be safe, because if you pull it out at 160, it's going to carry over to 165 for sure. For somebody like me, I know exactly, I've cooked so many chicken breasts. I know exactly when it's going to hit the perfect temperature, but I'm cooking it for myself, so it's different. But I think the way most restaurants do nowadays is they brine their chickens, right? And we have these things in the restaurant that are called combi ovens, or they're combination ovens, where you can cook the protein with a thermometer probe in it. So there's really little to no risk. You know exactly what temperature it is.
I think, so as you're talking right now, my wheels are turning about our competition cooks that we do and have done for several years. And to be honest, I'm always worried about turning in. I've also judged a bunch of competitions. The worst thing you can do is turn in something that's still bloody or still red or pink. Pink chicken does not do well in a competition. However, I'm 100% sure that we're pulling our chicken about 8 degrees too late, maybe 10 degrees too late, because I feel like, especially when we're saucing, cause we're pulling our chicken usually around 165, and that's a whole half chicken that we're cooking at one time, and then we're usually saucing a little bit, then we're putting it back on the grill for that sauce to set up, and at that point, we're probably drying out. That meat's probably drying out or whatever else. So if we're pulling it around 150, 155, and then saucing, put it back on for 10 minutes at 275 degrees, we're probably going to be pretty close to that 160, 164 mark. And then it's probably going to take us almost to 170 even then. Even at 170, probably going to be dried out. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Are you doing a whole chicken or a half chicken with the bone in?
Half chicken, bone in.
Okay. Yeah. So what I would do in that instance, like let's say if I'm in a restaurant, if I'm serving a judge, what I would do is I would par cook that bird a little bit earlier. So like I would say it's finished an hour before I need to serve it, right? And I would pull it out at 140. Now this is me, and then from there let it come back down to room temperature, and then obviously 15 minutes before I'm ready to serve, I definitely blast it. I would go to a little higher temp. I'd probably be at like 300, 325. But what you want to do is make sure that chicken, right before you're about to serve it, you're temping it and it's at 165. And then right before you serve it, right? Because then it's ideal. And here's the thing. The only issue is when the judge, if you're getting it judged, as soon as that judge cuts into it, it's going to be like kind of juicy a little bit. So the idea is to put it on. You have to gauge it because it really depends if it's like a 3.5 pound bird or a 4.5 pound bird. You have to gauge it, but I would only let the bird rest for like 3 to 4 minutes before you gave it to the judge. It's a common practice in restaurants where, for me, especially if it's a half chicken, we pretty much fire them to order, right? A lot of people don't wait, so we'll be like 1 or 2 ahead. But I think it's that game, and also you have to know, like, I don't know how the judges are in most competitions, but a lot of people don't like pink chicken. Like, that's just the thing. So yep. I don't think you're going to get too crazy judged on. I think it's better to, especially with poultry, to, overcook it slightly than undercook it slightly. I think, because trust me, even in restaurants, I would never serve pink chicken because then people just think that they're dying.
Right.
Like,
it's E. coli,
like
it's botulism, salmonella.
Yep.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's a safe bet. Like if I were doing it for competition, I would definitely get that bird up to, 140 degrees, which is pretty much like medium, right? Where you still see some pinkish. Then, 20 to 30 minutes before I served it, that's when I would bring it back up to temp and make sure it's temped before I served it. Maybe gave it like 2 to 3 minutes to rest. But if the bone is in, I think you run into a little, it's like, it has to be perfect. And if you're not like, that's the thing. It's kind of hard to like try to pass those instructions off. I would want to do it myself first to see exactly where we land. But in all honesty, I mean, especially as a chef, like I personally like the bone in, but there's nothing you're going to do to mitigate that right by that thigh bone. It's always going to be just a touch pink, like there's like, especially where that thigh, if you're leaving the backbone in where the spine is, where the thigh bone and the back connect, it's always going to be a touch pink. Yeah. And if you go any further, then the breast overcooks. So It's kind of like that teeter-totter of, perfection, to be honest. That's
why they do that. So they make us turn in 2 halves of a chicken for the IBCA cooks. And so we'll definitely cut the spine out. And then cut it in half and basically left with just 2 halves there, right? Well, we could spatchcock and then cut later, but we just don't want to mess with that, to be honest. But this last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, we had a cook-off at one of the VFWs, the local here, and our bigger birds, we pulled them right at 165. But by the time they rested and by the time that they got sauced and put back on, I just don't think it was our best product. Now, who knows? I mean, we got final table out there in that, but that's still like saying like the top 15 or top 20, was final table.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm just always kind of wondering like maybe we're pulling it too early. I'm sorry, too late.
Or too late. Yeah.
And then having it dry out.
It's definitely like honestly, it's definitely worth testing. Especially if you have the poundage of the bird, and then you could just time it, like pretend like you're going to serve it and really see, because here's the thing, like the resting really matters. And also like making sure that where that bone is, you kind of hit it with some direct heat, whereas the breast, you kind of keep away from the heat, but it's kind of like, you have to like go back and forth. You're cooking it on an offset, right? Offset smoker? Or is it grill like a green egg?
That was like a grill, like a Weber. Or
okay.
It was a Weber.
Yeah. So I mean, I would. Yeah. You know what? That's a good. I might have to try that this weekend to see exactly, because I know it would take me a couple tries, but I'm pretty sure I can nail it. We back in the restaurant that I worked at quite a while back, in a hotel, the chef was from France, and he wanted to serve the chicken mid-well. And I'm like, you're never going to get away with that in America, man. I'm sorry. It's never going to happen. And here we go. We served a half chicken, and it was the slightest pink. And it was, seriously, I can't even believe we did it. But then, like, people started freaking out. And it only took about two guests to be like, this chicken's undercooked. It's raw, you know. And then he changed his perception. But we would literally time it perfectly. It was rotisserie chicken, and we would, like, time it perfectly. But it just takes a little, you know, a little back and forth, couple tests. But I think you can nail it.
No, definitely. Yeah, we're practicing every weekend. So I look forward to your video, by the way. Just get all the timetables down for me.
Right. You could
get the poundage.
Post that all.
If you could, go ahead and do the brine as well.
Actually, if you want to swing by the house on Saturday,
if you just want to come by here and show me, that'd be fantastic.
Well, that raises two questions for me.
Yeah.
One. Okay, so the you mentioned earlier about the heat coming from underneath and the heat hitting the bone side, which leads me to believe like maybe we need to start cooking on something that has a more kind of a direct heat underneath, but not Weber wise, where the heat source is so close,
right? Because
you run a risk of, I guess, overcooking it or cooking it too quick.
Burning it.
Burning is a good one.
Yeah.
And second is like, can you cook the chicken too fast? I mean, is there beef? You're okay, brisket, low and slow, or the hot and fast method. We've heard people, if you cook it on, like, say, a low and slow pit, the chicken's going to tend to dry out. I don't know. I mean, can you cook chicken too fast and it just not really retain that moisture?
You know what? That's a great question, and I'll be honest with you. I'm going to give away a trade secret here. So at Saison in San Francisco, the way we did it, which actually worked out really good, is we would get the color that we wanted over the embers, over the red, like we would have a fan, and we would literally fan the embers, and they would be bright red, and we would get the skin nice and crispy, and then we would flip it over and get it on a resting rack, and we would put it into a 200-degree oven forever. It was about, like, I would say literally like an hour and 15 minutes. And there would only be like, I would say maybe a tablespoon of liquid in the bottom, where the chef really believed that if you did it low and slow, like barbecue, that all the juice would stay inside the chicken. And I'll tell you what, it was really moist and delicious. But the only thing is like, it takes forever, right? So you have a chicken that is like, where it could be literally only 20 minutes to cook. And this process just took too long, but it was super delicious. So I think cooking it too high and too fast would be an issue. I think you have to find that, that middle ground, I don't know. What type of breed of chicken are you using?
Well, and that's another question. I have all these questions stored up. Honestly, we're going to our local grocery store, our local. Okay. Sometimes we're able to source
Pilgrim's Farm.
What's that?
It's just Pilgrim's Farm.
Pilgrim's Farm.
Right. Yeah, just the Foster's. What is it, Foster? But hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with those chickens because they honestly, the feed that they feed them makes them nice and fat and delicious. But I would highly suggest sourcing out. Actually, here in California, there's a couple chicken farmers. There's 3 that I really enjoy. One of them is going to be Mary's Chicken here in Northern California. They do a really good job, but they're starting to get commercialized. But one of my favorites is called Pasture Bird. And you can get them online. The only thing is the online ones come frozen. But in all honesty, if you're just testing, it's totally fine. And then there's a third one is Jadori chicken. Jadori chicken is by far probably the top of the list for consistency.
Nice. I've actually heard of Jadori. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So Jadori, I wouldn't even worry about the organic one. It's the same. Literally, it's the same pin. It's not even. But it's highly worth it to go with a breed that's juicy. So those top 3, I can even send you the link, but I would highly recommend one of those.
Yeah, no, I definitely would appreciate that. Shoot that over to us. I definitely love to check it out. I did see you do a video with a black chicken.
You saw that, the silky chicken.
Okay, oh man, explain to the people what that is, because that thing is weird.
Yeah, it is super weird. So the silky chicken, believe it or not, is basically a chicken, and like if you look at this thing, it's feathers. It's crazy. It's almost like ostrich feathers on a chicken, but they're all white, and the skin is black. The meat is kind of like grayish, but it's really highly prized in in Asian culture, and they use it for like soups, stews, and sauces for medicinal purposes. But the reason why I wanted to do it is because I've only worked with it once, and I thought it'd be really cool. But I got to be honest, the people of TikTok were freaked out by it. But it's good. I think that's a good thing. I thought it might have gone viral, but it's totally fine. It didn't really do that well, and I'm kind of glad. But honestly, I as a chef, I'm always curious, and I always like to get new ingredients. And the thing about this bird is it has a deeper, richer chicken flavor, but it's super lean. So a good example is I would not take that bird and roast it in the oven. I would not take that bird and grill it over the grill. I think the way I prepared it really highlighted it. So I would compare it to like cooking like a game bird, like quail or squab. I would not like cook it like regular chicken, but the flavor was really good. The skin was weird. The skin was so weird, but I crisped it up really nice. That the night it was really good, but the second day, it was weird. It was like chewing on I think the thing that got me was that just the color was like, okay, this is awkward. So, but other than that, I mean, the chicken was really good. It's just really weird for people to see that because nobody really sees a black chicken.
Right. That is super.
That is,
I gotta check this out. I've not seen the video to this, so I need to check this out.
Yeah, I need to see that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna order
one. It's
one.
really cool.
The eyeballs are black, right? Am I mistaken that the eyeballs of the chicken are black? I mean,
dude, everything's black. Yeah. Everything's black, blackish purple, and I got a full video on YouTube about it, and I think it's great. I had a lot of I like to use ingredients that people never seen, and I think the whole purpose of that was taking something that looks really gross and like Halloween and making it into a Michelin level style dish. And I thought it was great, but I have a full video on YouTube on that. And if you ever get a chance to try it. It's actually pretty good. The meat is actually really good. It's just really lean. That's the only thing.
So I didn't get to see the video. How exactly, you said you didn't cook it over a fire. How exactly did you cook it?
No. So basically what I did is I did an old school technique. It's called a Ballantine. And all you're doing is you're taking the breast and the thighs, everything boneless. You literally undress the bird like with the skin. So I made a slit down the spine and then carefully got a knife in there and literally took off all the skin. And then I'm trimming off all the extra fat. And then what I do is I put the meat back in there. And then I use a thing called transglutamase, which is basically like, it's considered like a meat glue. It binds proteins together. And I layer that in between the breast and the thigh, and then I roll it up. So I roll the meat around inside the skin, and then I cooked it sous vide for about 60 minutes at 149 degrees. And then from there, I seasoned it with a curry spice, which was like, it's called Vaduvan. And it's basically like a really deep, rich curry spice. And I use that because it really played well with the gaminess of the chicken. It wasn't really gamey. It just had a really a stronger chickeny flavor. And so that's what I seasoned it with. And then I just cooked it, let it rest, and then seared it on the outside. So it's 100% boneless. I made a sauce from the bones, and it came out really good. I really enjoyed it, but it's freaky to look at.
It sounds amazing. Honestly, some of that was over my head, but it sounds amazing. And I'm definitely going to check out the video. We're getting to that part of the podcast where I ask you the question about barbecue fails or cooking fails. I know everybody's got one. Do you have one you can share?
Yeah, definitely. More than I'd like to talk about, but I'll give you a good one. So this one was actually when I was working in Los Angeles at Hotel Bel Air, and I was really tired. And, with big banquets that people are spending thousands of dollars on, and it was a wedding, and we're plating up the entree. And I butchered the beef tenderloin, and I thought I got the right count, but I ended up not having enough. And so basically what happened is they ordered, so I'm just going to use a number. Let's say there was 100 people, usually 60 order beef, and then, 50 or 40 will order fish, and then a few people order chicken. Well, this party ordered 80 fillets, and I only had enough for like 60 people. Mm-hmm. And so it was such a fail for me because basically we are plating up and the cook is like, "Chef, I don't have enough fillets." And I was like, and I was the one who counted them because I was like, "Hey, but I totally missed. I totally missed it." And I'll tell you what is so embarrassing. Where everybody's looking at me and they're like looking at me for leadership. And I was like, okay, guess what? These two tables, we're going to slice it. And then, so basically I'm slicing tenderloin. The banquet manager is freaking out, and I just admitted, I said, "Listen, I didn't count correctly. I do not have enough filet mignons." And she was like, "Okay." And then the last two tables got sliced filet mignon. So they ended up getting like a 4.5 ounce piece opposed to an 8-ounce filet. But it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my career, and it was a complete fail on my end.
Well, yeah. I mean, fail on your end, but bonus on that table, they got the filet mignon, right? I mean,
yeah, they got the whole piece because it's easier for banquets to like serve a whole piece, 8 ounce. But for the last two, they got the slice. They got the slice action.
They got half.
And
they got the half.
Yeah,
yeah. They got pretty much like a half. They got like a 4.5 ounce portion. So basically, I took 2.5 fillets and made three to four portions out of it, which I felt horrible. But at the same time, I didn't even have any more filet in the restaurant. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't like somebody could just run to the store and grab. We used prime filet, but it was very embarrassing, and nobody ever let me live it down until I left.
Did any of the guests notice?
Nobody even batted an eye. Some people didn't even. Nobody didn't even matter, and that's the only reason. That's the only thing that saved my ass, to be honest with you.
Right.
The banquet manager was like, "Chef, we're okay. It's fine." But she was freaking out, and I'm like, "Listen, I'm sorry. What else do you want me to tell you?" Like, and it was just
it's not going to happen
because
I love it.
And so then the next party that came up, she was like, "Oh, do you have enough filet this time?" And I'm like, "Okay,
you got jokes.
I deserve that. Yeah. It's fine." But yeah, that was a huge fail on my end.
That's awesome.
But I owned up to it.
Nice. I love that.
All right, Chef Dearden, hey, we appreciate you coming on here, and I feel like we can sit there and we can go on for another hour or two. We would love to have you back on whenever you had the opportunity. Yes, Jen.
This went by quick.
It did go by really quick. Was there something? Did we get into what he was? There's something you're working on with your twin?
Well, we're gonna ask about what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, James. I cut James off.
We're not done. We're getting ready.
I was gonna open up the last few minutes and just let Chef run with it. But definitely appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come shoot the shit with us. We wish you the best. And definitely, what do you have in the works for in the future right now? And I'm just going to step aside and just let you go at it.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? I'm happy to talk about it. So basically, I have a twin brother who is also a chef, believe it or not. He is on the East Coast. I am on the West Coast. And he lost his job during the pandemic. And it really was a hard hit because he had just relocated and literally went, from making a really cushy salary to absolutely nothing. And it pushed us in a direction where I was like, okay, I think now's the time. Well, we don't have enough capital to open up a full brick and mortar restaurant. So we got creative and we decided to start with a cloud kitchen. And basically this is a kitchen that's delivery only and you can run multiple concepts out of it. The startup is very low. It's, less than 25K. So we scrounged up enough money and made it happen. So basically we have a location in Philly and it's I'm going to say it's our brainchild. It's we're trying to get the formula down correctly so we can copycat it. And so we have a cloud kitchen. There's about 7 concepts in it in Philly. And we're just growing it ever so slowly. It's not even it's kind of like a side hustle for right now. We're not making money, but we're not losing money. And I think what's really important is for the future is try to develop, a system that is sustainable without us inside, right? So I think the key is with restaurants nowadays, it's just so expensive. And to open a restaurant, the profit margin's so small. And I've ran enough restaurants for people to know that. So so we're just trying to be strategic. But at some point, we're going to come together and watch this dream flourish. But for right now, basically, I'm just focused on my job, what I'm doing right now, working for a high-profile client here in Los Altos Hills, and then working simultaneously on my personal brand, as well as assisting my brother with the cloud kitchens.
I wanted to ask, I know John was going to chime in, maybe I'm going to ask his question or not. I don't understand what a cloud kitchen is.
I was going to say, what exactly is that?
Yeah.
So this is great. I'm so glad you asked that because honestly, people freak out when they hear about it, but basically it's like a ghost kitchen. So it's really popular in Los Angeles, really popular here in San Francisco. And basically what it is, it's a building, right? Think of an apartment building, and instead of apartments, there's all kitchens. So you have a 2,500 square foot, I would say a 400 to 500 square foot space where there's a range, there's a fryer, there's a prep space, and you are running a concept that's delivery only. So Uber Eats, Postmates, they all come to that one apartment building and they pick up They can pick up multiple orders, just one order, but it's basically like a central kitchen. And people get freaked out because they're like, oh my God, I don't know what about the health department and all that good stuff. Well, guess what? The health department's even more rigorous with the cloud kitchen than a regular brick and mortar. And so the benefit about this is there's no overhead costs, right? You're basically just paying to lease the apartment or the kitchen, and the landlord takes care of everything else. So the deliveries, the maintenance, the whole, but what you invest in is the tech. So the tech of the third-party delivery apps it's all orchestrated through this one basically section in this building, and it's pretty amazing. And basically you cook the items, you put it on a rack outside, then it goes to the window where the delivery driver picks it up. And I think the best part about it is you can run multiple concepts out of one kitchen. So here's a good example for that. We have a fried chicken concept. We have a dumpling concept. We have a breakfast concept, all under one roof. Think about this. If you're just Applebee's, then you have to stick with Applebee's, right? You can't break off and go Tex-Mex. Well, under the cloud kitchens, you can run multiple concepts, which is great because if one doesn't work, you can literally shut it down and start another one in less than 24 hours. That's how good the tech is. Wow. And so that's pretty much what a cloud kitchen is. If you have an opportunity, you can just Google cloud kitchens and it'll pull you up on their website. There's ones, it's sprouting everywhere, but it's kind of like what Uber was 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Not many people knew about it. Uber's like, what? A person driving their car, they drive you places. It's an app. Oh my God, what is that? We all thought it was ridiculous. And now it runs the world. But that's ideally in a nutshell what cloud kitchen is.
That's freaking genius is what that is.
Yeah, you know what it really is? And I mean, it's so funny. It's, the person that started Uber is one of the main investors. And believe it or not, Cloud Kitchen is making the money with the real estate. They're not making the money off of the kitchens. So they buy, they buy up these big buildings and they just build the kitchens out. And it's actually pretty cool. The only thing is it's going to take I would say probably like another 6 months to a year for people to start familiarizing with the actual concepts. But if you're ordering something off Uber Eats or Postmates, guaranteed 20% of the restaurants on that app, are a ghost kitchen.
Wow.
That's how you get your food a lot faster.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
Nice. I don't know. My wheels are turning right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just turning. I'm just like, how
can we get our smoker into an apartment?
Right.
How do we do that?
Yeah. Well, dude, I've already tried to work that out, but I really like the, at Saison, I use the JR smoker, JNR smoker. Those things are amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
But here in California, you have to have a special air circulation system for that. If you want to have it in a restaurant, it's crazy. It's like $250,000 if you want to burn solid wood in a restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Out here in Texas, they're just like crack a window.
Crack a window, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Hope you're okay.
Yeah, right.
We'll check on you tomorrow.
That's why everybody's going there. Shoot.
I know.
That's no joke.
That's funny.
It's funny. It's really funny.
All right, hey Chef. Hey, thank you for being on the show. Please let the listeners know where they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So I am at Chef Authorized on TikTok, and then at BD Chef on Instagram. Feel free to follow, reach out. I post videos pretty much daily on TikTok and Instagram, and then twice a week on YouTube. YouTube is just BD Chef.
Okay.
BD Chef. Okay. We'll definitely gonna reach out to you and see if you can get back on because I definitely have a million more questions when it comes to pork and beef and all that stuff. Yes.
It's so valuable. I have a head full of knowledge from over the 15 years, and I didn't realize how much people valued my opinion on certain things, especially when it has to do with food. So I'm happy to come back. Just reach out to me, and we'll you guys have my cell phone number now, so feel free to reach out anytime. And I'll ask about the barbecue questions. How about that?
Heck yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, Chef.
Appreciate it, Chef.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Right.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, what a great interview.
Dude, that went by so fast. Like, I looked down, I was like, oh, we're like 11 minutes in. So I try to keep an eye on how long we're talking. I looked down again, like 55 minutes. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Right.
Like, we just zoomed through it.
This is time warp.
There's so many more questions.
I know.
I love all the information about the chicken and stuff. I wish I could have got to other questions that I had, but we'll definitely have him back on and asking those questions. I love some of the about cooking the chicken, and it's always, we discussed this a little bit. You know, we're all into competition cooking and backyard grilling cooking as well, and we know how to cook chicken and when we're supposed to pull chicken off. But I mean, pulling chicken off at 140, 150.
Never heard of it. I'm gonna try it. If I die, you'll know why.
Well, you don't eat it right then.
You cook it again after that. You let
Well, no, he said that he does his.
He did two ways. One, he's like pulling off at 140,
right,
and let it sit for a while.
Goes, yeah.
And then the other one, he's like
refiring it,
pulling off at like 150.
No,
right.
he said his wife likes it like 225. I think.
No, 170.
175.
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah. I was like, it's almost like that's Amy. I mean, she loves her chicken just
sawdust. She wants to see it crumble.
Yeah,
if you're cutting and it's crumbling,
she wants it to dissolve in her mouth.
Yep. Soak up all the moisture she has in her mouth.
It's like you put a saltine cracker in your mouth. It's like,
yep, that's it.
It's so cool.
Chicken's moist.
Appreciate it, Chef Dearden.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Alden, I know it's late in the business.
I can't even do it right now.
Okay,
don't even ask.
All right. Well,
so yeah, if you want to find any more information on us, head to grabthebrisket.com, and you'll find links to all of our social medias and our swag and whatever else. This is my first time giving the business on this thing.
It's so weird. I don't like it.
I feel really weird.
I like it.
It's very short.
I like it.
You're not Alden.
Yeah. Just go to what's up, my dudes?
There you go.
Don't start doing
When's
that.
the last time I said that?
Last week.
Damn it. Was I here for that?
Alden does it way better than you do.
Okay. Well, he didn't want to do it, so I was jumping in.
That's all right.
Definitely check out Chef and check out us. I mean, we got the podcast spitting out 2 times a week. We have the TikTok going on with a lot of the videos and content, and we just did a competition cook-off not too long ago, so we'll get that into the next episode. So stay tuned.
And check out our Patreon.
It's great talking barbecue with you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. We've been great.
Dang it, Bobby. Just grab the brisket. All right, we would like to give a special thanks to FOGO Premium Hardwood Lump Charcoal, Bolner's Fiesta Spices, CoolieNation Custom Koozies, Cambro Manufacturing, YETI Cooler, the Smoke Sheep Barbecue Newsletter, and Texas Brew Hopper. We appreciate their support. Y'all guys go check them out.